late aughts, early, what do you even call the 2010s?
The 2010s.
Yeah, the 2010s.
Correct. What's good? Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of The Newest Olympian. My name is Mike Schubert. I'm the titular Newest Olympian. I'm a 32-year-old man who never read the Percy Jackson books as a kid. I read them as an adult because I was determining if society had slept on the series. I said yes, and now I'm seeing if society has also slept on the Heroes of Olympus series. And I'm not on this quest alone. I'm never on this quest alone, and I am joined by two fine folks who you might know as the co-hosts of the Monster Donut podcast, or as the Queen of the Universe and the Queen of multiple universes, respectively. It is Emily and Phoebe from Monster Donut. Folks, how's it going?
Hi. I didn't really expect you to keep the titles.
Look, if anything, I'm a big fan of Yes and I asked if you wanted to be introduced as anything besides the co-host of Monster Donut, and Emily said I would like to be the Queen of the Universe, and then I offered the same thing to Phoebe, and Phoebe with the Infinity +1 move said I would like to be Queen of multiple universes, which I love and respect. But how are the two of you doing? It's a delight to have you back on the show.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Thanks for having us back.
This book was really fun. I miss it.
I know. I love The Lost Hero.
I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I'm interested to see by the time I finish the series, like where book one ranks out of the 5 in terms of what people enjoy the most or whatever. Because I'm pretty sure it's lower on most people's overall rankings, but I'm still having a great time. I think it's fun. I think it's goofy. As we said just before recording, the language of love French thing is great. Like, we've got all the silly goofs. We've got some fun stuff. We've got scary things happening in this chapter. So I think it's all good. Now, let's get into it before we get into the chapters. What are your histories with the Heroes of Olympus books? When did you first read them and all that?
The Lost Hero was... No, that's about to be a lie. Let me rephrase that. The Lost Hero...
I wrote The Lost Hero!
The Lost Hero was the first book that I experienced live with the fandom.
Oh, cool.
I had read some of the other books as they came out, but this was the first time that I was like online and like theorizing with people about like who's Jason and stuff like that, like before the book came out. And so I have a soft spot for The Lost Hero and for all of Heroes of Olympus because I like experienced the whole thing with the online fandom.
Now, was this Tumblr? Where on the internet was this taking place?
This was Tumblr for the most part.
Okay.
A little bit of like the early days of it were like DeviantArt and like some like, I don't know, live journal kind of stuff. But by the time we got into it, then it was Tumblr.
Mm-hmm.
So Who is Jason was coming out before the books. Like, how much was known before the story actually came out? Did people just know like there's 3 new people and that's it? Or what was the fandom's knowledge?
For some reason, my brain is telling me that there was some kind of like campaign or mystery around this, but I'm totally forgetting what it was. I just know that, you know, a synopsis came out and it was all about some guy named Jason. And we were like, what? Huh?
Fantastic. How about you, Emily?
So I came to them a bit later. I think I even might have mentioned this one in our first episode with you, but basically I'd read just the original 5 and I hadn't kept up at all. I hadn't even read the Kane Chronicles. I just sort of fell off of it. But then our first week of college, basically, like the first month or so, we didn't go to the same university, but I was on Tumblr and I follow Phoebe on Tumblr. And it was right before House of Hades came out.
Okay.
And Phoebe kind of became famous in the Percy Jackson fandom.
Famous is a word you could use.
I didn't know this at the time because I'm just friends with her, so that's why I followed her. But basically, her college bookstore put out House of Hades a week early, so she got her hands on a copy of House of Hades a week early.
Oh, cool.
And so she was posting about it in a way that was good for fandom and definitely not just Spoiling things for everybody.
Yeah, no, I would never do that.
Did you know that you got it a week early, or was this just complete?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, sweet. So it wasn't like you were just like, hey guys, so when Grover dies, and then it was like, what?
Phoebe was basically like, I'm the first on the ground reporter for what's going on in this book.
Yeah, I was kind of like, what do people want to know?
Oh. Man, that is so cool. The scoops.
Yeah, but she's posting about it. And I was seeing all these posts and all this excitement. And I was like, oh, man, that was such a good book series. I miss Percy Jackson. And I was, I had some time. It was orientation week. And I was really feeling nostalgic. So I went out to the bookstore and I bought a copy of The Lost Hero. And I think I read it in 24 hours. Because again, I'm like, who's Jason? Oh, man. Yeah. It's a good mystery. I enjoyed it. Yeah. I immediately went back and I bought the next 2 books. And I read Son of Neptune again in 24 hours. And then I think I got 100 pages into Mark of Athena and then classes started. And so I put him down and did not pick him up again until after I graduated.
Yeah, that'll do it. School gets you every time with reading books for fun when you have to read books for school.
Mm-hmm. But it was a good time. I enjoyed it a lot. And I think that's when Phoebe and I actually started to become friends because I was texting her the Latin. And she was like, Emily.
Oh, incredible. Oh, man. That's so fun.
For the record, I would not be posting these spoilers now. I've learned my lesson.
Well, I guess people could understand, right? They could just, I guess, was muting people on Tumblr even a thing? I don't.
You could block keywords, but it's not very effective. So.
Yeah.
It was still I remember I was talking to Robert from the damn meme page and I was like, oh yeah, and then Phoebe did that back in the day. And Robert was like, wait, Phoebe? Is Phoebe from Tumblr?
Oh, that's great. I love it. I absolutely love it. That's so fun. Yeah, I guess it's a scary world where you can't do what I've done, where I have respectfully all of my Percy Jackson podcast friends muted on social media because I don't want to accidentally see something. But let's get into these 2 chapters. We're going to be talking about chapters 21 and 22 of The Lost Hero, which weirdly are both titled Piper, but we will be doing our experiment that we do here on the Newest Olympian, where we rename the chapters by the end of the coverage. So we can start those gears turning of what would you have titled them if you were doing the quirky thing. But where we last left our heroes, we had them leaving the scary ice situation. They're leaving Quebec City, and we get the opening line of chapter 21. We've made it 21 chapters until we get a not banger opener line. I feel like the first 20 chapters all had really cool opening sentences. And all this one says is, quote, Piper didn't relax until the glow of Quebec City faded behind them. Quebec City, City of Lights. But this is the first, and it's not like I'm trying to hold this against Rick, but I feel like he's just set the precedent of, instead of having cool chapter titles, the beginning of every chapter slaps. And this just felt more like a Percy Jackson first sentence where I'm describing what's happening. And I was like, oh, a normal sentence? This isn't fun. So it just took me back a little.
I mean, as a writer, they can't all be bangers. Sometimes the things just got to move forward. There's 50 of these guys.
Right, totally. Sometimes we just got to get into the story. So, yes, they are leaving Quebec City. Jason commends Piper on her performance back there with all of the French speaking, charm speaking, all that kind of stuff, keeping them alive. And then Piper, as the narrator, recognizes that this normally would have made her day. But just like Jason, to end the last chapter, she is also very worried about what lies ahead, maybe for a little bit different reasoning, but she is still terrified of everything that is to come and all of the very ominous things that King Boreas said. Piper is also dreading that she will have to make a choice soon, and I feel that. Sometimes more so than actually having to make the choice, it's just the dread of, well, by Thursday, I have to decide. And that's such a daunting thing of, I only have 24 hours to choose. So I fully get her upcoming worry here.
Yeah, that's a thing. It takes emotional energy to choose things,
which
is something I did not realize until I was an adult. And you have to make so many decisions.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a thing. I guess, because as I get older now, I'm a fossil at age 32, which I will say as a behind the scenes peek, in the last recording, the last episode is with Liam Crowley, and before we recorded, I was like, you're in your mid-20s, right? And he was like, oh, I'm 23, I'm almost turning 24. And that's why in the intro I didn't say my age, because sometimes I switch between age and grown man, and I was like, I can't say my age. It makes me feel so old. Still, I will forever ride the compliment of, at the premiere, he was flabbergasted to learn I was in my 30s, and I was like, oh my god, I will ride this high forever. He was like, I thought we were the same age. And I was like, I am writing this on my resume. But I guess it is a thing where just like, aside from my bones and everything not being as old, you're right that just like so much as a kid, I just didn't have to make choices. I was like too busy to make a choice, especially in high school where it was just like, wake up, go to school, do a varsity sport, go home, do your homework and go to sleep. Like I just had to do the stuff. So yeah, having to actually make choices, gosh, maybe that's why I'm so exhausted after I write an email because I have to choose.
There's so many things to choose. How many exclamation points do you put in there?
What's
the tone? Salutations? What's the subject lines in emails are the bane of my existence, actually. Because I'm like, no, I wrote the email. I carefully worded it. What do you mean I have to now take what I did and put it into like 2 words? No.
It's that. And then as you referenced earlier, it is, okay, I've written the email. Now I must reduce the number of exclamation points by 1/2. There are too many. We got to go from 6 to 3.
Yep.
Gosh. Oh, man. So Piper tells Jason in French, but it doesn't actually say it in French in the book, quote, "If you knew the truth about me, you wouldn't think I was so amazing." And Jason goes, "What did you just say?" And Piper says, "I said I only talked to Boreas. It wasn't so amazing." And Jason, you gotta pick up on the fact that none of those words were Boreas, because the French word for Boreas is probably Boreas, especially if you're doing the proper noun thing where you just say the same thing. And I just don't understand how Jason could think that Piper is doing it. Also, wild choice for Piper to do this. Like, let me just make a huge risk. And also, at what point did she get the ability to do it on command? Because my perception from the previous chapters was that it was almost instinctual, especially in the beginning when she was just saying, "Oh, I didn't even know that I spoke French. So now she can just speak French." This was wild in so many different worlds to me.
I feel like it kind of like vibes with the way they do Greek, though, right? In the first series, where it's like, oh, I can understand it. And then like every once in a while, one of them will pop out with some Greek or Latin insult and be like, oh, okay.
Okay.
Although it's also like implied that they've been studying it in the book. So I don't know.
Yeah. I guess it could be similar to when Percy has a water power where he does something by accident and then eventually he's like, well, I bet I can do this. And then he does it. So maybe it's like that where she's like unlocked the power and then she's trying to use it a bit more.
Yeah. Also, I say Boreas.
Oh, I have no idea if I'm right or wrong.
You could be right. I have never looked up the pronunciation of this word. The accent could go on not the first syllable, which would track for Greek, but in French, it does have an R in it. So I would understand Jason not fully connecting that because it'd be like Boreas.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. No, that's valid. That's valid. How much sauce is Piper putting on it?
Yeah. She's got to go full sauce. I mean, come on. If you're speaking French, you've got to have the full everything.
You got to. You have to. Yeah. It's not just a language. It's a vibe.
Exactly.
French. That's my new slogan for French.
Exactly.
Jason says he owes her for keeping him from joining Keone's. And again, is that the pronunciation you would go with? I would guess that. But okay, cool. From joining Keone's Sub-Zero Hero collection, which is great. The little rhyming, like, it just sounds so smooth of the Sub-Zero Hero collection. I absolutely love that.
Merch line when?
Yeah, right. Give me little action figures where it's all little. And then I was just imagining like the plastic, like with the cardboard, rip it, like that Hot Wheels come in, you know, and it's just Keone's Sub-Zero Hero collection. They're all in their poses. Yeah. Piper is bothered by all of the Roman stuff that went down, and very much of you, Emily, of the Latin is basically Piper's vibe. And she wishes that Jason would talk about it, but he seems reluctant to bring it up, so she doesn't want to force the issue and do it. So she is beginning to wonder now, is Jason correct in his instincts of not belonging at Camp Half-Blood? And then wonders even the next step, is he an enemy? So lots of Piper worrying about Jason here, which is very interesting.
I was wondering, do you have any questions about what you've learned so far about all this stuff, of the history? I won't talk about the plot.
Yeah, where are the Jason theories standing?
Yeah. So previously I had thought that Jason was like a really old person that was resurrected. And then we get the Thalia sister reveal, which makes me question it a little bit more, but it's still worrisome about what's going on there. And I don't fully know there, unfortunately. And I guess I should be spoiler alerting this more because I just thought I got into this weird space where I assumed everyone had read past me by now, but I know some people are reading with the podcast. But I knew about Camp Jupiter before reading these just because like it felt like an inescapable part of the Percy Jackson fandom. I've seen the purple t-shirts because there's that great photo of Rick wearing it where he's fighting himself in Camp Half-Blood in a Camp Jupiter shirt. And I'm guessing that is what all of this, I don't belong at Camp Half-Blood thing is, as opposed to being like, oh, is he really an enemy? But that being said, it's at least potentially on the table as like a Captain America Civil War situation, given what Boreas said last chapter, where he said, oh, the demigods might tear each other apart. And that feels like we could have Greek people versus Roman people. And that would be very interesting to have not Percy and Jason, but Percy versus Jason. Ugh. So that's at least now on my radar, given what King Boreas was saying last chapter. I hadn't thought it before, but now I'm wondering, even if it's not like true evil, such as when Percy hated Luke, kind of true adversarial situation, it could just be a Captain America Civil War again, where it's just, oh, you know, I like you, but I have to fight for whatever reason and blah, 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 blah. So that's where I'm currently at. And I guess we'll just leave your trapdoors intact with the key phrase of Leo hands them sandwiches. Though he's sad about Keone not being as nice as she looked, Jason tries to comfort him. Leo is still downtrodden, and Piper is convinced that Leo is hiding something since he never clarified the whole Boreads sniffing fire on him situation. But again, Piper's not pushing the issue here. Leo's sour mood seems to be rubbing off on Festus, and about this, narrator Piper says, quote, happy the dragon was not so happy. And I've already established that this is not the best translation of Festus. Like, celebration is a more accurate one. Felix would have been a better one for happy. But as some people have pointed out, and some people did on Reddit, made a very funny thread about me not necessarily getting the Latin right. Latin does have this thing. And what that person who made the post pointed out was going to the back of your textbook and just seeing like all the synonyms, because it'll just list so many different things. If you do go to Festus, it would be like celebration, festival, and then it would get into something like joyous, if you use it as an adjective, festive, and then it gets farther into like solemn as well. So like it's not 100% legit, but like it's not ridiculous of Uncle Rick to say that the translation is happy. It's just that Felix is definitely the word for happy, and Festus could be the word for happy. But I get he's trying to make the Festus Hephaestus kind of joke, but call him Party the Dragon. That's fun. Why not? I don't know.
Oh, I'm trying to think if there's any other. Oh, no, all I have in my head going now is let's get cracking with the part. Like, no, what? Let's get it cracking. Is that a phrase people use? I don't know.
Back in the day, let's get it poppin'.
Let's get it cracking, but spelled Krakon.
Ooh.
Is where I was going with that. I was trying to come up with the dragon pun, but
I like it. Yeah. Draken, Kraken. I dig it.
I mean, that would track. I feel like from what I've seen, there's a definite trade-off where either whenever there's Latin in these books, it's either somebody helped and it's good, or there's sometimes where I think maybe they were putting it in after the Latin consultant had already done their job, and so it's just dictionary forms of all the words. So it's like in the nominative and then the infinitive for the verbs, and it's just like, no.
Look, you're speaking my dead language. I love this. I'm glad. Yeah, for anyone unfamiliar, the Latin from Emily does not mean the Latin, I don't like the Latin. It means they haven't done it properly. I'm a scholar.
I don't think I can call myself officially a scholar, but I did study it. I majored in it in undergrad, Greek and Latin. So that's, and that is Rick Riordan's fault. For the most part.
Nice. Yeah. Certainly a step above me, who just took it in high school for 3 years. I didn't even take it for 4 years. I only took it for 3. They didn't offer advanced or AP, so it would have brought my GPA down.
Okay. I see.
Oh, huge nerd over here. Huge nerd.
I mean, same. I took 4 years of Latin. I didn't have to, because we only had to take one language. And I was like, I'm going to take Latin and French, because that's just where I want to be right now. And it was good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, you're taking all the languages spoken in the Percy Jackson books. You've done it.
I know. I'm like, oh, a test.
So the team eats on the fly, literally. And though Piper has no clue how Leo packed these supplies, she's honored that he remembered to pack her a vegetarian sandwich in the form of a cheese and avocado sandwich. And the team doesn't really talk much, since they are all dreading what surely King Boreas thought was a suicide mission. Otherwise, why would he have let them go? Piper has also been thinking about Coach Hedge now that they know he's alive. And now that she knows the truth about him being a protector, she realizes all the times that he was hard on her. It was because he was trying to train her to be a better demigod. So it's a tough love situation. Mm-hmm. I'm also very glad she brought him up because I haven't thought about Coach Hedge because a lot has been happening. But I'm excited. I like Coach Hedge. I had a little bit of, I kind of like this guy even when he was a grump before we learned we should like this guy. So yeah, I want Coach Hedge to get back in the mix. I hope he's okay.
How does he compare to Chiron for you as far as this description of him as a mentor?
He's definitely a different style of mentor. Mm-hmm. Not my favorite, but I do appreciate that he does seem to be more straight down and quick with descriptions as opposed to Chiron constantly playing the plot and the marionette puppet dolling. So I like that Coach Hedge feels more straightforward of like, boom, here I am. Here's what's up. I'm going to call you a cupcake. I have a big bat. Bang.
You know, I never thought of him like that. That's good, though. He's like kind of the opposite. Or it's like, no, I'm so honest. I'm going to be the opposite.
It's how I operate better. I just work so much better with just tell me what it is, tell me straight to my face. Like anytime I'm in a feedback situation, whether it is a work thing or if it is my Central Park softball league, I'm telling people, just give me the feedback. Don't sugarcoat it. Am I doing something bad? Tell me, please. I'm a big boy. Give me the feedback. Don't try to compliment sandwich me. Just give me the like crap baloney. Just give it to me. Give it to me straight. We don't need to waste time. She's also curious, Piper, about Dylan back in Las Vegas mentioning that Hedge was sent to wilderness school because he was getting old. And she wonders if that's why Hedge was so grumpy. His role was more of a punishment. So she's trying to figure out what's going on with that. Why is the school a bad thing to be at? But no matter what, she is compelled to save Coach Hedge, which I think is good. We're getting more heroic things of Piper. She has this struggle of, am I going to screw them over? Am I going to do good stuff? And that's kind of the theme of these entire 2 chapters. Mm-hmm. She does stop herself short from thinking of anything too heroic, though, because going with this back and forth, she remembers, oh, right, yeah, I'm a traitor, and soon my friends are going to figure it out, so I can't think too much about being good. Piper looks at the stars above and recalls a time her and her dad went back to Grandpa Tom's house long after he died in order to spruce it up and sell it. And they slept outside to beat the heat of the air conditioning-less home, and Piper pointed out the constellations to her dad. Tristan talks about how Grandpa Tom refuted the Greek shapes and instead favored Cherokee ones, which included these furry beasts with magical fur, one of them being a magic hedgehog, which I thought was very cool. Tristan still thinks it's all baloney. But Piper had finally worked up the courage to ask him why he never played Native American parts in his movies. And I'm at first wondering, were any offered? This is 2010. It feels like we're still ripe in every movie of, well, every movie should be about a white guy, right? Mm-hmm. Seems like where we were at the time. But apparently, the week before, he turned down millions to play Tonto in a remake of The Lone Ranger. And I wrote, wait, didn't Johnny Depp do that? And I looked it up, and that movie came out in 2013. So either Rick was on top of it, and there was news about this movie being in production, or he's just Nostradamus. And I have to ask Uncle Rick this if I ever get him on the pod.
He's got those Hollywood connects now. Maybe
I wonder.
Ear to the ground.
I guess at that point, right, timeline-wise, he had been, I wouldn't say in production of the Lightning Thief movie, but he had at least been in that world, right? Mm-hmm. So would he have maybe known? I don't know how big of news it was that they were making this movie, but it's either incredible timing or just him having some insight and making a timely reference in this late aughts, early, what do you even call the 2010s?
Oh,
the 2010s.
Yeah, the 2010s. I feel like there is a term for it, but I cannot. Nope. Yeah, if I've heard it, it's been like
Let's see.
Offhand.
What is the 2010s like aughts phrase? Kelly always makes fun of the way that I Google things is like I'm talking to a person. Oh, this is interesting. I've learned that the aughts in British English are called the naughties. Why do they always have the worst things?
That's kind of fun.
It is more, everything is more whimsical. Like, it just, like, I think instead of Smarties, our candy Smarties, they call them like Fizzy Wizzies or something. Oh, yeah. It's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. I have I can't find it. Is there here we go. Thank you, Reddit. Reddit.com/r/Ask Europe. Is there a common name for the decades between 2000 to 2009 and 2010 to 2019? Denmark, we call them the Nullern, the zeros. And then the T urn, the tens, so nothing special. Oh, this isn't good. It's just a bunch of people from Europe saying stuff. Okay, I got nothing.
When you said that, I was like, I thought the term was Denmark. And I was like, what?
Yeah, so in the early Denmarks from 2010 to 2019. Yep, that's what we're calling them now. But anyway, Percy Jackson. So Tristan says that he doesn't take these roles because a role like that would be too close to home. Mm-hmm. He says it's easier for him to pretend to be someone that he's not. And I wrote, oh, like a good dad? Hey-oh! Air horns rain from the sky. Piper asks if he's ever tempted to pick a role that would change people's opinions, and he says he's never come across one like it. I don't know if that's true or if it's some weird cop-out from him, but this is a very interesting thing that I wonder if that's going to come up later, if we'll revisit it. But Piper calls him out for not actually wanting to sell the house, and he confirms, and then we snap back to reality, and oh, there goes gravity, because yes, they are still flying on a dragon. Piper.
Before I move on, I do want to say I really like this scene between Piper and her dad.
Yeah.
The emotional depth in these moments is like, I just really enjoy it. There's something about it as well that I think just brings it closer to home in a way where it feels like Rick's really like grown as a writer from the first series where he's like bringing in more of this stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And I really love how it's like bringing in, like acknowledging other religions as well and other things beyond like Christianity.
Mm-hmm. I wrote down the line, she looked at the stars trying to imagine them as glowing hedgehogs. All she saw were the stick figures she knew, Hercules running across the sky on his way to kill monsters. Because I just find Piper's story so heartbreaking as a character who is so separated from her culture that like she looks at the sky and can't even see the figures that are her heritage, that like the Greeks have completely drowned it out. Mm-hmm. Like Piper as someone who spends so much of her life like denying the things that she is or like separating herself from the things that she is, like with the internalized misogyny and with being Cherokee and like questioning through the whole book whether she's the villain here or if she's a traitor, like can she allow herself to be one of them when she knows at the end of it all like maybe she isn't, and like just the way she distances herself from every place where she could belong. I'm such a Piper girl. I love her so much.
I find her story to be really interesting. I find it to be narratively interesting. Just one of our heroes is a hero with a question mark at the end. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really fun and I'm intrigued. Yeah, that's a good point to make, Phoebe. Like the way that she has to kind of abandon her heritage, or at least it just doesn't feel true to her, especially because we're seeing that her dad is still kind of like weird about it, and that could lead into it. And then you also have, never knowing her mom, and then now everything that's getting thrown into the mix with learning about the fact that she's a demigod, all these sorts of things. Mm-hmm. It's very interesting, and I am interested to see how it gets further developed. And I feel like at some point I'll probably do another one of the things when I would do like special episodes in between books. I would probably want to have someone who is Cherokee on the pod to talk about, do they do it well or is it done poorly? Because it's just one of those things where I don't know.
Yeah.
And I feel like my reader, because I feel like I've heard little things of some stuff like not being handled as well. And I want to say that the thing that Uncle Rick got some flack for is the way he does the Cherokee stuff with Piper, but I'm not positive. Okay. Oh, no. Yeah. So.
Yeah. No, I think that'd be great. I would love to hear that too, because I don't know as much about the Cherokee religion and culture and everything. So yeah, that'd be really cool.
I don't. I absolutely wish I did. I wish my freaking history classes in America would teach me about Native American history. It's so frustrating to me that I have to learn all of this stuff on my own. Like, why was I? So I'll probably have someone on. I know Delia, who was on the pod a bunch before. She's Cherokee. I don't know if she's Red Heroes of Olympus, but at the very least, she could tell me the overall stuff. And then I'll have to figure out at what point in the series to do it, because I don't know when it gets fully more fleshed out, when it gets bad, is it how far into the series? So we'll have to see.
I do say, I think what I was sort of circling around before is I like how three-dimensional Tristan is as a character that he comes through here with the house stuff too. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's why I like it so much, is because it feels like, again, a step up from Percy Jackson, where all the adults were kind of like, they're a lot less dimensional here.
Yeah, they're definitely more one note of Sally is good, Smelly Gabe is bad. And you get a little bit of complexity, I guess, with Annabeth's dad, but yeah, it's more simple. What I think I enjoyed about this scene is that it just felt very real. Like it felt very believable. It felt like a conversation they would have. It felt authentic. And it made me feel a little bit better about Tristan as a dad because this felt like he was actually being open and vulnerable and honest with Piper, as opposed to what we saw before with the beach where he was like, long conversation. Oh no, what if we played 3 questions instead? Not even 20 questions. 3? Come on, man. Let's have a conversation with your daughter. But Piper is baffled that her dad can so often pretend to be someone he's not because she's been pretending to be a hero for just a couple of chapters and it's absolutely draining her. She is getting sleepy. And then I wrote in my notes, oh yeah, dream time. Let's go. We've been at a dream in a while. And she leans back on Jason's chest. He doesn't protest. And I love that they're both doing this. This is very fun that they are both in the, well, I don't want to be weird about this relationship, but I'm also not going to argue with any sort of physical contact that we get because I still do kind of like this person. I think it's great and it's super believable and would 1,000% track with teenagers in this situation. It feels very authentic. I absolutely love it. She falls asleep and then begins to dream. She's back on top of the mountain with the purple bonfire. And here's another pronunciation question. How would you say this one? Because I think I said Enceladus or something, or I said it wrong. Whatever it was, I said it. And then 38,000 people replied to me on social media that I was saying it wrong. And I don't remember it because I was just getting so many messages about it that I was annoyed.
I can
which is not the right approach.
Supposed to. I think Enceladus is probably closer to the Greek. I would say Enceladus because that sounds more like what the quote-unquote English pronunciation would be.
Okay, that might be what people were telling me.
I mean, if it's a C and it's a Greek word, it's supposed to be a kappa, which is a K.
Okay.
Let me look
I
up.
don't bother and just read it as enchiladas every time.
Look, I'm waiting. I made the prediction and I hope it happens, but I'm predicting if Grover ever has to come to grips with this character, he will make an enchiladas joke. And if he doesn't, I would just like to submit it as a potential thing to add into the script for the showrunners of the animated series, or as Joel Rochester and I are arguing, for the K-drama for Heroes of Olympus, because Heroes of Olympus is a K-drama. At least The Lost Hero, it's a K-drama. And that is how it should be done. I used to be able to search for my messages on Instagram by thing, but now it's replaced with Ask Meta AI something. I don't want to ask Meta AI anything. I would pay these companies money to get rid of the AI.
I was getting so frustrated with that the other day. I was like, I just want to search for a thing on your website.
I want the boring internet back, please. There is that thing. It is a Korean website where you can it does Google, but it just does the web thing instead. Whatever it is, I will put the link to it in the notes of this episode because it's just a thing where just Auto only does the web results and not ads or the stupid AI thing where they tell you to put glue on pizza. But God, it's just so bad. It's just so bad. And I can't search that was honestly one of the most functional things on Instagram is you could search for the content of messages, which was nice because it's not easy to keep track of the stuff. So I could be like, oh, someone's asking something about the Toronto live show. I could search for Toronto, find the message. Can't do it anymore. Sorry, everyone. I don't know how to pronounce enchiladas. I think that's what people were saying. I'm going to keep going with enchiladas. I will just hold judgment until I talk to Dr. Moya.
So the Greek is the accents on the second syllable, and US is a Roman ending. So I think they took the Romanization of it first, but the original Greek is Enceladus.
Ooh,
and
okay.
So Roman would be Enceladus.
Okay.
And I say Enceladus, though. Again, with these things, it's what's the correct pronunciation? I'm putting in pretty big air quotes, which podcast listeners can't see.
But they can feel.
Because the thing is, it's we've got the Greek version, the Roman version, for a lot of these terms because the Romans adopted a lot of the Greek terms. And then we've got the, old 1800s British pronunciation that's the considered proper English pronunciation. But they kind of went buck wild with it a little bit.
Well, they say privacy. I don't know that we can trust them. They call the 2010s the Denmarks. Right. So we don't know. How can we?
Yeah, that's a thing now, actually. I'm going to start calling them the Denmarks.
Yeah. The Black Eyed Peas, they just had a great run in the early Denmarks. But you're exactly right, because there's lots of different pronunciations. And then even I'll get into this, where in Hades, the video game, they go with different pronunciations. And I just say that. And that's why I say Daedalus instead of Daedalus. I'm like, well, the true source of Greek mythology, the one most reputable source, Hades, the video game, that's how they say it. So that's how I say that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Now, as a classic scholar, I can confirm Hades, the video game, is actually cited a lot now as the
As it should be. Gosh, it's so good. Hades 2 is so good. I'm having such a fun time. So anyway, Enceladus, he's here, but there is no sign of Piper's dad, however. So Piper asks, where is he? And the giant says that his body is fine, but his mind is another question. Apparently he's been messing with it. He says, quote, you must hurry, girl, or I fear there will be little left of him to save. Piper pleads for him to let her dad go, and Enceladus says he is proving his love for his parents by doing this, so she should do the same. He wants Piper to prove to him that she loves Tristan by refusing to obey Hera. Piper says that he's asking her to betray her friends, and he says they are destined to die because their quest is impossible, so he offers her a choice. You can die with your friends or live with your dad. The fire grows. Piper tries to back away, but cannot because the ground is sucking her in. Oh, Gaia's at it again. And looking up to the sky, she sees a familiar landmark, quote, rising from a sea of fog over a line of rolling hills. Piper recognizes that Enceladus is showing her this to reveal his location. So then I started thinking about it. Sea of Fog reeks of San Francisco. And I'm not super confident since we've already been to San Francisco, but we were there for a lot. And if the underworld Greek style is in Los Angeles, Roman style being in San Francisco could be kind of fun. They're both in California. And we also have the nod to redwood trees being a thing. So geographically, that could make sense. But specifically, familiar landmark over a line of rolling hills completely feels like that cell tower that I used to call the Eye of Sauron, that big red pointy thing, Sutro Tower, that if you've ever been to San Francisco, just like looms ominously over the city. It feels like that to me if I had to pick. Just like by use of landmark, rolling hills, sea of fog, like that's what I'm thinking. I don't know. It would track because that thing looks evil as hell. So if that's where the evil headquarters is, that could for sure make sense. So
I don't know. We did learn redwoods are in both New Jersey and Long Island in the Percy Jackson TV show. So.
God. Oh, that's really, yeah, that's true. Gosh. You got to spice it up. It looked cool. It looked cool. It made no sense.
It was beautiful.
But like, it looked cool.
I understand why they went for those forests over ours, but.
Incorrect vibes. So Enceladus admits that Piper is right and instructs her to lead her friends to this location instead of the true destination, and he'll kill them, or she could just have them killed sooner if she wants. So at least she has some choices. And if she is at the summit by noon on the solstice, she can take her father and leave peacefully. Now, summit feels more like a mountain, but landmark doesn't feel like nature to me. So I'm going back and forth. I was also thinking, I don't know, is this something, could it be Mount Rainier / Tahoma in Seattle? But he wouldn't ask Piper to scale a mountain. Like that feels very intense of him. Whereas I don't know how you get up Sutro Tower, but I'm assuming there's ladders because it is, I think, still functional. But I'm intrigued. I would love it if it was Sutro Tower though, because I've always thought it's a big scary evil thing. So if the big scary evil people are there, it'd be very fun. It would at least make sense of why it looks so scary. But it's the nods and the this is great. Piper tries pushing back, but Enceladus starts pushing buttons like Piper's a member of the Pussycat Dolls. You want to talk about the 2010s. He calls Leo a foolish boy who has always irritated Piper and is now keeping secrets from her, and Jason a boyfriend that she never really had.
I was like, he's making points, I fear.
Just no holds barred. He's just going right at it. Bap, bap. You're doing this for your pretend boyfriend? Get out of here. Oh, my goodness.
It was this plus the, like, who's more important, your father or a deceitful goddess who used you, toyed with your emotions, manipulated your memories? What is Hera to you? I was like, that's a great question. This guy's really...
Yeah, it's very much, you're not wrong to the villain. He's kind of spitting facts.
One thing I don't know if you've talked about it in the past as well, like how she thinks about Selena Beauregard when she's confronted with this role as the traitor.
It's very interesting because it's forcing me to at least partially hand it to Drew, because Drew is correct about Selena and everyone else is wrong, including Piper. Or I guess maybe not. I don't know, because Piper does view her more as a traitor. So maybe Piper's right about it too. But yeah, it is interesting because that was happening in this chapter as well. She starts thinking like, oh, I'm a traitor just like Selena. So maybe she's actually on the right line of thinking as well.
I just enjoyed the way that it's like replaying. It's the way that things that happened in Percy Jackson are already kind of becoming legends and stories that are passed around camp. And there's no true, like, either of them could be right. Who knows? Because none of them knew her.
Yeah, it's fun. And I was just talking with someone, I was guesting on a podcast that was run by librarians in New Jersey. And one of the guys said that he read Heroes of Olympus not knowing that the Percy Jackson series of books existed.
Whoa.
And then read them after, which I think is so cool just because it kind of makes you more in line with the characters where all of these stories are just hearsay. That's actually really fascinating to me. Like, wow, this Percy guy does sound cool.
I need to hear this perspective. That's crazy.
I know. It's really, really fun. I think it's super cool. And a couple of TNO listeners have said they've at least read The Lost Hero without reading the Percy Jackson books, which I think is just so fun. I think that's really cool. And I think the way it's written, it does kind of work.
Yeah.
It does kind of work in a way where it could be something where you read it and then it's as if they made a prequel series. Kelly just did that by accident with, I don't remember the title of it, but there's this like Jurassic Park. Kelly was really into Jurassic Park and the whole extended universe. And on Netflix, there's an animated Jurassic World thing where it's like kids get stuck in the abandoned thing. Like I think it happens like just before the Jurassic World version of the franchise begins. And they had just released, we're recording this in June of 2024. God, they just released a sequel series to that that's like less of a kid's show and more of like a YA TV show, like more teen centered. And Kelly watched all of that. And then, you know, they kept talking about the stuff so vividly from before. And then when she finished the season of it, it was like, viewers also watched this. And it was like a 6-season long kids show that set up the entire premise. So Kelly started to go back and watch a little bit of that. But like the animation wasn't as good and stuff because it was earlier. So she didn't get as sucked into it. So it could happen. It could track.
Yeah. I mean, I do love the way this book starts as like a new entry. Maybe you didn't read the last one. Like all the new characters that come in, the way it's all set up. I think it works really well.
Yeah, I think Rick has always been good. I used to praise him for this in the PJO books, and he's doing a good job here. He does a good job of catching you up to speed without really dragging it out and making it boring. So I think it works. Now, here's another thing I got to say about Enceladus is that of all the Percy Jackson characters that I wouldn't want to face in a rap battle, I wouldn't want to face Enceladus in a rap battle because he went straight for the throat and it was very much like, I've been thinking these mean things about you and I'm ready to hit you right in the heart. He feels like he would put some devastating rap battles out there. And I will have to, at some point, I think, do one like I did with Nathan earlier when I did a Nico versus Percy one.
Are you going to cosplay as him, though, is the question. Are you going to get up on stilts?
I got bones in my hair. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that might be tough. That might be tough. I'll do something. Yeah, maybe I'll just wear platform shoes or something. But Enceladus says that he too was proud once, thinking the gods would never best him, but then they hurled a mountain on top of him, and he struggled there for eons, but now he clawed his way back with the help of the waking earth. So it really does feel like Gaia is going to be the bad guy here, the bad Gaia. And he says he is only the first. So I'm thinking, okay, so he is probably a giant son of Gaia, but not the giant that we're really worried about rising, unless it's a situation where it's like Kronos, where he hasn't actually risen yet. He is the threat to rise and he's just kind of infiltrating the dreams. So that could be it. But because he said he's only the first and there's more to come, it makes me feel like he has risen. He's back and doing stuff. And his scarier brother is waiting to be risen by Gaia. So we'll just have to see. But he continues, quote, "We will not be denied our vengeance, not this time, and you, Piper McLean, need a lesson in humility. I'll show you how easily your rebellious spirit can be brought to earth." And he was speaking literally because Piper wakes up mid-freefall and is plummeting towards the earth. And that's the end of chapter 21. And the quirky title I've given it, I think this is a fun one where I'm trying to think of all the different ways Rick titles them. And the one that I've gone with here is just when he says something that you just get worried about what happens. So I was just thinking, I go skydiving is a good one. Because then you know, oh crap, they probably fall off the dragon. And then you just don't know how. Do they get attacked by something? What goes on? So that would be my retitling of chapter 21. What do the two of you have, if anything?
Ooh. I go skydiving is pretty good. That's pretty true to form. You know, we should know better about this because this is how we title our podcast episodes. And every single time we're like, do you got anything?
No.
It's always hard. It's always hard. I don't envy Rick. I see why he changed his ways. It is not easy to come up with cool, fun titles.
Something to do with the hedgehogs.
Ooh, that's fun. I like magical hedgehogs. That's a good one. I look at magical hedgehogs or something.
Yeah, something about like, I fall asleep in the sky, maybe.
Ooh, that's fun. I like it. I like it.
My dad teaches me about hedgehogs. That's a good one.
There it is. That's a good one. I like that. We've got it. We found it. Well, now we can take our break here, The Lost Euro, and then we will get back into our discussion of Chapter 22. Hello and welcome to the Lost Euro Shubio Edition, special Shubio Edition, in that the baby is asleep, so I will be a little more somber and reserved in this mid-roll break than I normally am. Think of this as a hybridization between ASMR Mike and the mid-roll break, but I've got some updates and fun stuff for the podcast, so let's get into those first. This is the first episode of the New Olympian coming after we took a break, so we took last week off because July is a 5-Monday month. It took one of those weeks off because last week was very, very busy with tour and LeakyCon and everything, and just needed a catch up in general. Thank you for dealing with that and understanding that. And I haven't taken a break in a while, but that means we're going to give money to charity. What we do here at TNO now is every time I take a break, I will take $1 for every 1,000 downloads that TNO has gotten since the last time we gave money and give it to a new charity. So last time in the 1st of June, we donated $1,500 to World Central Kitchen, which is an organization helping folks in Gaza and the surrounding area get much needed food. And now there have been 270,000 downloads of the New Olympian since that donation. So I will be giving $270 to Midnight Mission. Midnight Mission is a charity based out of California. They have a location in Los Angeles and South Bay, and they are fighting against homelessness. They're helping people in need in their community, and they're more than just a homeless shelter. They have a bunch of resources and support services to help people in their program get back onto their feet, and they've all these different fantastic things that you can learn about at midnightmission.org. And I picked them because you may have seen in the US that the Supreme Court is wildin', and they basically made it so that you can get arrested for being homeless, which is ridiculous, especially in a housing crisis. So I definitely wanted to find an organization that was helping folks who are facing homelessness and dealing with it and working through it. So Midnight Mission is one that I had heard of before, and they are a great organization. Again, you can learn more about what they do at midnightmission.org. Now, other TNO-related updates. I mentioned the live shows. Thank you to the folks who came to the live shows that we did in Seattle and Vancouver, and there are more to come in the near future. We've got a live show on August 3rd in Berkeley, California. We've got a live show on August 24th in Nashville, Tennessee, and on August 25th, we will be in Atlanta, Georgia. And then I've got some new shows coming out in the fall. Tickets are not live yet, but I did want to at least say the dates so that you could pencil them in. These should be set, so I think you can plan around them, but the ticket sales are not live yet, so it's not 100% locked in stone. But what we've got on the horizon is September 23rd in New York City, September 26th in Vienna, Virginia, which is very close to Washington, D.C., October 5th in Toronto, Ontario, October 24th in New Orleans, Louisiana, October 30th in Dallas, Texas, and November 7th in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'm also trying to secure a date in October for Boston, Massachusetts. So that is what is ahead. I will have tickets available for the ones that are live at thenewsolympian.com/live. And I will also put these tentative to be announced dates up there just so that you can have them as a reference at thenewsolympian.com/live. I'd also now like to take the time to thank the folks who have joined the Patreon at any tier at any time. I'm very appreciative to everyone who supports the show. You don't have to do that. You get the podcast for free, so you going above and beyond is very, very cool. But I want to give a shout out to the folks who have joined most recently. So shout out to our newest Super God tier patron, Heather Zhang. Shout out to our newest God tier patrons, Gabriella Hennessy, Reflection of a Wandering Dreamer, Celicia, This One Time at Half-Blood Camp, Katie, and Reed F. And shout out to our newest demigod tier patrons, Iman Khan, Polaris, and Tristan May. Thank you all so much for your support. May Hypnos bless you that if you are ever doing something near a sleeping baby and you want that baby to stay asleep, that you are able to do it quietly so that baby stays asleep. Now, if you're all caught up on the New Olympian and you're looking for a new podcast to listen to, I make a whole bunch of podcasts, so you are in luck. I think they're very good. And one that is similar to the New Olympian is Potterless. It's pretty much the same structure as TNO, but it was about the Harry Potter books. And I never read those as a kid as well, so it's me going through those for the first time. I made it before I made TNO, so it's going to sound a little bit different. It is also a cursing allowed podcast, so if you want something a slightly different style, you can check that out. I think it's fun. There's over 200 episodes. There's a lot of fun stuff covered, from the books to the movies to the play to fan-made stuff to spin-off books, all sorts of fun stuff there. You can listen to that wherever you get your podcasts by searching for Potterless or by going to our website, potterlesspodcast.com. Now, unless you're listening on Patreon where you get access to ad-free episodes, you will now hear words from a few sponsors who make it feasible for me to be a full-time podcaster. Some of those ads will be read by me, such as by some of our sponsors, Arena Club, who do trading cards, or Thrive Market, an online grocery service, but other of those ads won't be read by me. Those are locally inserted, so if you live in Barbados, don't be surprised if you hear an ad still in English that, at least according to the internet, is the official language of Barbados, but maybe it will be more Barbados relevant. But once those ads are complete, we'll get back into this episode of the New Olympian. Also, Barbados is a very on-brand to TNO flag. It's got a trident in the middle. It looks very, very cool, and it's blue and yellow. Oh my gosh. All right, we are back. Chapter 22, also called Piper. And we have thankfully returned to banger opening line town. Quote, Piper tumbled through the sky. Far below, she saw city lights glimmering in the early dawn. And several hundred yards away, the body of the bronze dragon spinning out of control, its wings limp, fire flickering in its mouth like a badly wired light bulb. A body shot past her, Leo screaming frantically and grabbing at the clouds. Not cool! With about 8 O's. A+, we're back. What an opener. Great. Let's roll.
I love this image of just like, can you just imagine waking up just like falling through the sky? Oof.
Don't like that. I've never even fallen out of my bed before. So I can't imagine falling through the sky. Terrifying.
Couldn't be me. I've definitely been pushed out of bed by my brothers when we were little. Like, just whenever we'd have to share beds on vacation, just being like, oh, no.
I did sleep in the top bunk in my dorm at Rice. I think all 4 years, or not a top bunk. We had like raised beds so that you could put your desk underneath and stuff, but effectively a top bunk. And I don't think I ever fell out. But there was no like bar thing to keep you safe. It was just like, here's the bed. I guess they figure like, you're old enough. You won't fall out of bed.
You're an adult. You don't move in your sleep.
I love this not cool from Leo. That's very fun. Never change Leo. This is so fun. Jason gives Piper instructions to stop tumbling, getting her into skydiving position. Skydiving, big fan. Have you ever been skydiving?
No.
It's fantastic. I highly recommend everyone do it. I did it exactly once and it feels very much like, I'm glad I did it. I would do it again, but it also kind of feels like, do I need to take the risk? Even though it's like less risky than, I don't know, driving a car. But I think it's great. It's fun, and you don't get that feeling of falling like when you go in a roller coaster or something. You don't get that stomach type thing. And the reason is because your plane is going at the speed of whatever you're going to be falling. So it's really just like the change in vector as opposed to that stomach of, so you feel like maybe a hint of it, but not much. It's very cool.
That's interesting.
And you just get to see the curvature of the earth. It's super fun. I recommend it. I went skydiving between finishing all my final exams and graduation.
Why not risk it?
It was literally just, we had a week where just like nothing was going on and some friends had a Groupon and they were like, hey, one of our friends backed out. Does anyone want to go skydiving for not that much money? And I was like, yeah, that sounds good. And then I called my parents. I was like, hey, I went skydiving. And they were like, why didn't you wait until after graduation? I was like, good point. Good point. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, in your point of view, that wouldn't have made a difference, you know?
I legally graduated for all intents and purposes. I got the email and stuff with my transcripts and everything. So yeah, I didn't need to walk. They told me I graduated.
Yeah, skydiving's definitely on my bucket list. I haven't gotten the opportunity yet. The one I will never do is bungee jumping, though.
Oh,
never.
Absolutely not. You could not pay me enough money to bungee jump. Because that is just all the bad feeling of the falling, it having multiple times. And then we get the extra added fun bonus of maybe this cord comes into play and hurts me. No way.
No.
Can't. It could snap. It could loop around me. Absolutely not.
I've had conversations with a friend where it's like, my fear of falling is fear of equipment malfunction. So I don't like doing like top rope at a gym, like when I'm rock climbing. But their fear is not of equipment failure, but of like their body failing them, basically. So they're fine to rely on equipment, but they will not stand next to an edge, for example. And it's just a very interesting conversation we had where I was like, nah, man. Like, I remember when I was hiking up the Grand Canyon and I was so tired at one point, I like almost stepped off the path, which if you've been, it's like 2 feet wide in places and you will just fall. And I remember I almost stepped off the path. I was so tired and just went, and just kept going.
I feel whoever you were talking to so deeply because I don't like bouldering with you guys. I prefer to be attached to something.
No, I'll be on the bouldering wall like 10 feet up, like, oh man, if I fall the wrong way, I'll break my arm.
Yeah, I don't get too high with that. For me, with like bouldering and rock climbing, I love hiking, and then that's about it. It's like, you know what? I'm in it for the views. I'm not in it for the sport of doing it. So I totally get it there. And I did learn recently, you know, when you get that weird feeling when you're like standing on the edge and your body's like, what if I just jumped?
Yeah.
What if I just did it? It's actually an evolutionary thing. So it's this thing that if your body senses a scary situation that you're not scared of enough, your body will just kind of like scare yourself into being like, you should be more scared of this. this so you will stay away from an edge. It's this like
That's
weird
wild. So what
mental
I'm hearing
evolution
is
thing.
You're not actually scared of heights if your body's telling you that.
Yeah, right? This is Kelly always reworks this as she's scared of some stuff more so than me, but she says, I'm actually super brave because I'm scared of more things than you, but I still do all the things. I'm afraid of heights, but I will still go on this hike, etc. I'm actually the bravest person on earth.
Yeah.
You know
Which
what?
I think is valid.
I think that's valid. Go, Kelly.
Yeah, that guy who did, I forget the guy's name, the famous rock climber who did the...
Free Solo?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Alex Honnold.
Yes, they studied his brain and he just like doesn't process fear. It's not hard. It's not hard for you to do the North Face because it's not scary. So you're actually not impressive. It's like basketball players dunking. It's not impressive. You're 7'2". Like, what are you talking about? It's not hard to dunk.
Me getting a rush when I send an email, like I think I'm actually the bravest person alive.
It's all that the mental fortitude. We're awesome. Podcasting's so hard. Anyway, Percy Jackson. So Jason gives Piper these instructions to not tumble. She gets into skydiving position. Jason wraps his arms around her waist, which Piper loves, but she doesn't love that the only way Jason will hug her is to save her life. Oh, why can't I just get a regular hug? Piper tells him to go get Leo, so he does. Leo wants them to save Festus, but Piper knows there's absolutely no way Jason can hold up a giant dragon, given that he's already struggling a ton to hold 2 humans. They hear an explosion near a warehouse complex, and Leo cries out for Festus. Jason tries his best to slow their fall, but after a lot of struggling, it becomes too much, and they begin just to free fall, and they crash through the roof of a warehouse. Piper lands on her feet, which is not smart when you're falling very quickly, and it causes her to really mess up her ankle. They scramble to find each other in this warehouse, and they do, and her foot is pointing the wrong direction, which is fun. And I wrote in my notes, can Ambrosia fix that? I sure hope so. We will see. Piper tries to get a sense of where they are, taking note of a corrugated metal company logo, which I think is fun because we had an unrelated corrugated steel reference a couple episodes ago, and now it's become a meme thing on TikTok. And some people were writing, I never thought I would hear corrugated metal be talked about in the newest Olympian. Well, it makes sense now because it would have come up a couple chapters later. But it's this corrugated metal logo of a singular red eye with spray paint graffiti all over it. So it's clearly an abandoned warehouse. Leo comes up to Piper and goes, you okay? And then sees her foot and goes, oh, no, you're not, which is A+, no notes, fantastic, so funny. I love this a lot. Piper sarcastically thanks him. Jason tells Piper that she'll be okay, though he sounds worried. He asks if Leo has first aid supplies, and he takes out gauze and duct tape from his tool belt, and it has bag of holding properties. I'm excited because I wondered about this when this tool belt was mentioned. I was wondering if it was going to be a magical tool belt. At least all it said was Leo packed a tool belt, and then it didn't say what was in it. So I thought, okay, cool. We're at least getting new things. Maybe it is like a bag of holding, and it is, which is very exciting.
Yeah, because isn't it a bag of holding thing too, where it'll jump to your hands theoretically? Which I found out because we had a whole this came up in my campaign where I was like, is it possible for me to grab this one thing very quickly? And my DM was like, yes, actually, that's the function.
Great. I did not know that about that bag of holding. That's very fun. But yeah, to Piper, this thing just looks like a standard leather wraparound apron with seemingly empty pockets. So she asks Leo, how did you pull something out of an empty utility belt? And Leo says it's magic, and he's still figuring out how it works. He says he can summon just about any regular, love that it clarified regular so that it's not too OP, regular tool from the pockets, plus other helpful things like mints. Yay! So fun. What a cool belt. Jason snatches the mints away and goes, that's great, Leo. Now can you fix her foot? Their whole dynamic is becoming very fun. I'm enjoying this a lot.
I identify with that moment hard, though, where you're like, look at all this stuff. And you just like completely have forgotten the danger. Like there's a reason you pulled out the toolkit, actually.
Look, the Swiss Army knife also has a corkscrew in case we want to turn up. Oh, fun. Can you just clip my toenail? So Leo says he could fix her if she was a car, since he's a mechanic, and he asks Piper if she has any of the gooey healing stuff they fed her at camp. What's it called? Rambo food? Which I guess is close enough to ambrosia. She corrects him that it's ambrosia and says that there should be some in her bag, so Jason kind of gets it off her backpack. He finds it, and they are described as, quote, smashed pastry squares like lemon bars. And the consistency of lemon bars tracks for me because I always thought they were gooey, but I never envisioned them as baked goods. I always envisioned them more like a gooey caramel cube or something, where they were kind of just all the filling of a lemon bar instead of having that baked pastry outer. But I feel like that tracks more for ambrosia because I feel like traditionally it's always a baked good, but I guess I just never thought of it that way because the way it was always described in these series was just the gooey consistency.
I feel like in my head it was a little crumbly though. Like I don't know why I had that impression. There's like a little crumbly. It's like the crust of the lemon bar plus the gooiness kind of tracks for me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I think it works. I think it could just be me misreading it. But yeah, lemon bars, tasty.
Yeah, I think I've totally misread something because gooey is not how I would describe it.
Oh, did you think they were hard candies or something?
No, they're more like just very soft.
Okay.
Like almost like something's almost melted. The texture of like biting into chocolate that is a little too warm.
Okay.
Or like nougat?
Yeah.
Nougat?
Nougat.
I don't know what that is.
Nougat it's like in some candy bars.
It's like the white stuff that's like squishy. I don't know. Like,
I wouldn't be
like
that.
Milky Way bar.
I feel like I've had straight up nougat one time and I was very confused. I was
It
like,
is a popular thing, like just nougat with like almonds in it and stuff. That's like a, I think I want to say it's a Spanish candy.
Yeah.
it's definitely European.
Yeah.
Maybe it's from Denmark, like in the,
Right.
the early 2010s. But anyway, Jason is able to get these out. Piper eats it, and it tastes like her dad's black bean soup, which he fed to her whenever she was sick. The pain goes away. Piper wants some more. Jason says they shouldn't because they were warned she could burn up. And I'm thinking, oh, wow, she wants it for the memory. Interesting. She doesn't want the healing stuff. She wants to feel the love of her father. Jason says he thinks that the best course of action here is probably to try and set her foot. Piper asks if he's ever done that, and Jason says he thinks he has, which is a great place for Jason to be, of not remembering his past. So, yeah, I've done it. Yeah, I've totally done this before. I know what I'm doing. Sure. Definitely what you want to hear from your nurse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you done this before? I think. Jason tells Piper to brace, and he goes for it. The pain is so great that she punches Leo reflexively, and he yells just as loud as she did, and that's absolutely great. Leo then makes her a makeshift splint out of plywood, gauze, and duct tape, and after some time passes and the pain settles, Piper asks what happened with Festus and where are they? Leo's unsure. He says that Festus jerked abruptly like he hit an invisible wall and then started to plummet. Piper wonders if Enceladus was so powerful he could strike them from this far away, then thinks, well, if he is that powerful, why not just kill Jason and Leo himself? Why is he making me do it? Which I think is a good line of reasoning.
Mystery.
It just feels like an intentional, either we have bigger plans for Piper sort of thing, or maybe there is some sort of reasoning of, oh, the demigod has to kill the demigod. It felt like there's some sort of fine print where he can't do it, similar to the gods can't meddle in the way of the other gods, and we got to get the demigods to do it. It kind of felt like that, but it just feels like there's some sort of fine print that's going on. Because yes, I agree. It feels like this guy could just zap them if he wanted to. So our team looks at the sign and determines that they are in an abandoned car plant called Monocle Motors. And now I want a mechanics shirt with the Monocle Motors logo. I've already said that we should get Dare Enterprises hats, and now we should get Monocle Motors work shirts. I feel like I'm just fleshing out the Percy Jackson company collection, and maybe one day, the folks at Disney can team up and we can make a whole fashion line of all of the different brands that come up.
There's some really great ones. I'm not going to lie. I would buy the shirts for sure. We've made some of them, although they're spoilers. So if you're following along with Newest Olympian, maybe don't look at our merch shop. But
yeah, I mean, look at tracks for you all. Monster Donut aprons.
Listen,
like,
Disney, at Disney, if you're listening, we are available for licensing.
They would be fools to not play up Monster Donut stuff. They would be fools not to do it. And now that Game of Thrones put a dragon on the Empire State Building, if they don't do a dragon for season 5, I'll be furious. Especially because the Empire State Building is down to clown. They're down to do stuff. They did the little rooftop thing with the Percy Jackson thing that we all did and paid way too much money to see, and it was like not that cool, but it was there. But if there was a big dragon up there, come on, cool. That's cool. That's super cool. I thought there was maybe they're like an actor. I thought there was gonna be something up there. Just a little photo op thing. But we do have those cool photos now, so we at least have that, and we have the memories. You can't put a price on that.
We have the memories.
I guess you could $88 US. But anyway, Percy Jackson. So Leo guesses they're in Detroit, because it's in an empty, abandoned car place. And I was like, how dare you? You could also be in Cleveland. But the narrator Piper says, Piper had heard about closed car plants in Detroit, so that made sense. But it seemed like a pretty depressing place to land. Shots fired at Detroit? Whoa. Okay. I have a rosy view of Detroit because the only time I've been in Detroit was when I did a live show, and I had a great time. I have a rosy view of a lot of cities where all I was there was for a live show, and then I got to meet TNO listeners who are all very, very nice. So that's on there. But like, I get it. For at least stereotypical Detroit, I get it. So we'll see if we're actually in Detroit. But Piper asks how far away from Chicago they are. Jason thinks they made it about 75% of the way there. And when he states that they can't fly the rest of the way without Festus, Leo says it's too dangerous just to go on land. Piper thinks about the ground swallowing her up in her dream and agrees. And I thought Leo was just making a Detroit is scary sort of statement, not the earth is scary sort of thing. So that's fun. They make sure with Jason that he can't fly them. He confirms and then asks Leo if he thinks that Festus malfunctioned. Leo's not sure, saying he'd have to inspect him whenever he finds where Festus landed. And Piper blurts out that it's her fault. And as narrator, Piper says that she cannot stand hiding the secret anymore because it's causing her to burn up inside as if she ate too much ambrosia, or like she was one of the Jonas Brothers. But Jason and Leo think there's no way it could be her fault since she was sleeping. They tell her to rest. She tries to work up the courage to tell them the truth, but just can't get the words out. Leo tells Jason to stay here with Piper, which I was thinking, ooh, is this a bro move? Or is Leo just very invested in trying to find Festus? It could go either way.
It could. He does have a very interesting relationship with Festus in this book.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember exactly how much development it's got, so I don't want to speak too much on it, but...
Yeah. It's like someone who really cares about their pet.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
But it's also like he fixes him, that's his thing.
Right, yeah. It's this thing of, when people say, oh, my car is my baby. What if it was actually your baby? What if you could actually speak with it? So he goes off to look for Festus. Jason thinks it's risky. Leo says that he'll be fine because he has mints and duct tape. What more could you need? Love it. Love it. Leo pulls a flashlight from his tool belt of holding and ventures off. Jason smiles, and that causes Piper to think of her first kiss with Jason, which makes her happy. But then she realizes, oh, wait, that didn't actually happen. Boo. And then Jason says that Piper looks better. And I was thinking, ooh, her foot or her looks? And then Piper wonders the exact same thing, which is great. She tells Jason that he did a good job with her ankle, asks where he learned first aid, and I wrote, like he's gonna know. And then Jason says, same answer as always, I don't know.
Why even asking questions at this point?
Yeah, like I get the instinct, but I feel like at a certain point, everyone has to catch up to speed. We are now halfway through the book. Can we realize asking Jason anything is not relevant? Or at least it's not a smart plan. Piper says it seems like Jason is getting some memories back, like the prophecy in Latin and the wolf dream. Jason says it's fuzzy, similar to when something is on the tip of your tongue, but for Jason, it's his whole life. And I wrote my notes, okay, she's for sure fishing to talk about the photo, isn't she? She's for sure trying to lead in of, so who's the girl in that photo? She's not like your girlfriend, is she?
Before we get into that, isn't that wild though? Just like imagine like all of your life experience and everything like you've ever, and like you can't remember any of it or how you know anything, but like sometimes you can do things and you're just like, huh.
Yeah, it's such an interesting situation that I can't really say that I've ever had anything similar to. The only thing I could see is if you do a muscle memory thing of something you've done for a really long time, like you don't go skiing for a decade and then you're just on the slopes and you're like, oh, right, I do it. Similar to just riding a bike,
Yeah.
I sometimes have these like shower thoughts of like, the things that you learned when you were a baby, like, I don't remember learning walking. You just like do it. And like, if you ever think about it too much, it's one of those things, it's like when you think about breathing or blinking and stuff like that, it's just like, oh, whoa, like these things that just are so instinctual. It's just like, oh yeah, right. Like I had to learn to do this. And I just have no memory of like, how did I learn to swallow food? Like it's wild.
I feel like the closest I can think of is like, I feel like because I did like gymnastics growing up, like I have pretty good body awareness. And the reason why I'm not afraid of heights, to circle back, is because I instinctively move my body in a way where I always fall like a cat almost. Like I've actually, knock on wood, never gotten injured.
Let's go.
Despite times I should have.
Hey, learning to fall properly goes a long way.
Yeah, and it's like I'll be in the air and my body just sort of moves and then I'll hit the ground and be like, oh, I'm fine.
That's great. Cool. Well, fun fact, if you drop Emily from a tall height, she'll land on all fours.
Yeah, you can just hold me, drop me. I'll be fine. It's a party trick.
Right. Piper doesn't have this. Piper did not learn this.
I will say, though, falling on your ankle is probably the better move than falling on, like, your back, though, because, like, you know, it's physics, right? One thing breaks, it kind of breaks your fall.
Sure, but you got to do the, like, parkour thing where you hit and roll or something. Yeah, you have to kind of land and stuff. Anyway, Percy Jackson. So, yes, Piper asks about the photo. Jason pulls back a bit. Piper apologizes for pushing too far. Jason says it's okay. He's just still processing. And he says it's of his sister, Thalia. And I wrote, probably a big sigh of relief for Piper, right? And then the next line from Rick is so well written because Jason is describing this. And then he goes, oh, it's my sister, Thalia, blah, blah, blah. Quote, I don't remember any details. I'm not even sure how I know, but why are you smiling? Great. So good. Such a well-written thing. So funny. I feel so much like I've just exactly one sentence ahead of Piper here. And then in response, Piper says nothing. So funny. She tries to play it off as being happy he remembered something from his past, which is like actually a smooth move from her. I actually respect it. And Piper says, oh yeah, and Annabeth mentioned she became a hunter. Jason nods and says he feels like he's supposed to find her. He thinks that Hera left this memory intact because it's relevant for the quest, which I think is really good reasoning that I hadn't considered. So I think that makes sense to me, at least. And I would also love a Thalia return. I love Thalia. Get my punk rock friend back. Come on. But he is also concerned that this all could be very dangerous, and he's just scared of learning the truth. Piper catches glimpses of the Monocle Motors logo, a single red eye, and it makes her think of the giant. So she starts to admit something about her dad to Jason, but then they hear a door slam shut, and they call out for Leo and hear nothing. So Piper tells Jason to go check on him. He doesn't want to leave her, but she wields her dagger and says that she'll be fine. Jason leaves her ambrosia and says, if I'm not back in 5 minutes, and she goes, panic? And Jason smiles and says he's glad she's back to normal. And then he says, the makeup and the dress were a lot more intimidating than the dagger. And she says, get going, Sparky, before I skewer you. And he goes, Sparky? And I gotta agree. And it feels cheesy and forced. If this is just a one-time thing, cool. If Sparky is trying to be the new Seaweed Brain, I'm gonna hate it. I'm really not gonna. It's too forced. It's not as cute. It's not as fun. It just feels too forced.
What's the counterpart, though? It's Sparky and, because he's got Seaweed Brain and Wise Girl.
I know.
Sparky and...
Like, what, Frenchie? I don't know. Like, it's just, it's not good. Like, Charmy.
Is this turning into Grease?
Yeah. Tell me about it, stud. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I don't love it, but we'll see if it comes into the mix. It just feels like he was trying to be a little bit of Go Get 'Em Tiger from Spider-Man. It just feels like very Mary Jane. I don't know. I don't love it. If the point of it is that it's supposed to not be good, cool. But the Sparky thing aside, I do like their banter. I like them. I like their dynamic. They do have a weird relationship, and I feel like they're both handling it really well, which is cool. And we'll just have to see how it develops. But yeah, Sparky, I don't know. I don't see it hitting as hard as Seaweed Brain. Seaweed Brain hits so hard. It's very good. Just because it's like out of nowhere, and it starts from a playful insult to a term of endearment, and that's a fun thing, as opposed to just like, I don't know, it feels like a forced thing when someone's like, we should have a couple nickname, or when one of my high school girlfriends said, we should have a song, and thank Christ she picked 1, 2, 3, 4 by Plain White Tees, because that song sucks. So when we broke up, I felt no remorse. I was like, thank God. Like, all that to say, Sparky, I don't know if I'm feeling it. I don't know if I'm feeling it. But then narrator Piper says, even offended, Jason looked hot. It wasn't fair. Teens, they're such teens. It's great. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yep.
So after about a minute, she hears a loud bang. She looks at the Monocle Motor sign again, and a little voice in her head gives her a warning, like something bad from Greek mythology is afoot. And I thought, okay, yeah, this feels right. Is a Cyclops coming? What's happening? Piper grabs for another piece of ambrosia. She hears another boom, so she eats it, and it's just enough to kind of do the trick to where she can get out of the splint. And after what feels like minutes, she finally calls out for Jason. She was afraid to do so before to give away her location. And she hears, yeah, on my way up in his voice. But she's still suspicious. And I was suspicious because that is too calm of a response. It wasn't, Piper, are you okay? Just, yeah, on my way up. I felt, I don't like this. I really don't like this at all. And then a little bit later, it's his voice again that says, it's okay. Again, too calm. So then we get this to end the chapter from the book. It says, quote, at the top of the stairs, a face appeared out of the darkness, a hideous black grin, a smashed nose, and a single bloodshot eye in the middle of his forehead. It's fine, the Cyclops said, in a perfect imitation of Jason's voice. You're just in time for dinner.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, 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 indeed. I don't know if this is a famous Cyclops, like when we had our fun friend Polyphemus, someone, from a very, very well-known story. I do not know who this person is. We'll see. I don't think I know of any other famous Cyclopes. So if this is someone well-known, cool. If it is just like a being that can do this sort of thing, fun as well. So I don't know, but I'm very intrigued. It's a very fun ending. But that is the end of this chapter, which I have titled, We Get Fitted for Monocles, which I think could just be a fun dumb off the scent title. Good. Do you have any chapter titles before we wrap here?
We Fall to Our Death is the one that comes to mind. It's a nice little reference to St. Louis Arch.
Yes, that's good. Yeah, we instead of I.
Death. Yeah. There's multiple POVs in this one.
That's fun. I love a callback. Do you have anything, Phoebe? It's okay if you don't.
My instinct is to go for Ambrosia related something because of Piper kind of playing with fire here. Ooh. And like eating an entire square when she's been told not to. I don't know. Piper plays with fire. Sounds bad, but something there.
Or something fire eating or something like could be along those lines. Yeah. I dig it. Well, this was super fun. Thank you both so much for joining. Such a delight. Always a fun time to have you on the pod, especially fresh off of me being on your show to break down the movie as if it was a very intense, real, legitimate piece of literature. But if people want to find you
and maybe it is
stuff, maybe it is. Jury's out. But if people want to find you doing stuff, where can they find you doing stuff?
You can find our podcast, Monster Donut, wherever you listen to podcasts. And you can find us on social media at PJOPod on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. You can find me personally at Dramaturg, but spelled with a W, so Dramaturg on Twitter. And Emily will tell you where you can find her.
And you can find me on Twitter at 9EmilyLime, 9 with the numbers, because it's a palindrome. And I made that when I was in high school.
Yes, love that.
And Emily Lime was taken, alas.
Look, that's why I have to throw the 17 on mine. Everyone took Shubes. I have it in so few places, but whenever I get so happy. But yeah, throwing the 17 a lot. But now weirdly it's come around where like no one does numbers anymore. So I've like weirdly become cool because everyone else's Instagram handle now is like, I don't know, if I was doing other things, it would be like, it's Shubes, or I'm Shubes, or I hate Shubes if I want to be quirky. So to throw the numbers now, I'm like kind of come back around. But anyway, thank you all so much for joining. This was a delight, listeners. Thank you for listening. And until next time, when we figure out who this Cyclops is, until then, I'll pursue you late. Hello. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Newest Olympian. This podcast is created, hosted, and produced by me, Mike Schubert. I also run the social media and the website. Our editor is Sherry Guo. The music is by Bettina Campamontes and Brandon Grugel, and the art is by Jessica E. Boyd. If you can't get enough of the podcast, you can get involved in a couple of different ways. First, you can support us on Patreon, where you get bonus content. You can go to thenewestolympian.com/Patreon. You can also find us on social media. We're at Newest Olympian on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can go to our website, thenewestolympian.com, to learn more about the show. You can check out live shows that we've got coming near you at thenewestolympian.com/live. You can check out our merch page at thenewestolympian.com/merch. That's also where the TNO coffee lives. And for community stuff, we have a subreddit where you can chat with folks, reddit.com/r/thenewestolympian. And we also have the Discord, which is accessible to all folks on Patreon. Speaking of the Patreon, I want to give a shout out to our folks producing at the highest tier, our producer level patrons. Shout out to Kelsey Gillespie, The Damn Steam Nuggets, Vicky Garcia, Veronica Bartova, Frida Vikstrom, Megan Moon, Craig McRoberts, Taylor Payne, Sabrina Balsiger, Boney Pony, Polly Burridge, Nikki Harris, Tatiana Schmidt, Sandra Rose, Josh Sayer, Josh Wilkie, Abby Ryan, Ashton Gabrielson, Marco Redhouse, Sam Reeby, Riley Kiddes, Mrs. O'Leary, Milo Kim, Sandkopf, Julia Kendall, Rike, John Drillsma, Rayla Matthews, Sky Mallory, Persasabeth, Aiden Parziani, King Bastion, One Damn Distraction Coming Up, Ginger Spursboy, A Cup of Solace, Meg Roy, Bradimus Prime, Skylar Sisters, Scott Sheldon, Sophie, Natanya Page, Ann M. Thayer Cohen, Finley McLeod, Sarah Elise Arnson, Bella, Hayden Neal, Percy Jackson, and Han Haley Hingelheimer Schmidt. If you want to help out the show in a non-monetary way, word of mouth helps the show so much. Whether you post post about the show on social media, or you reach out to someone directly, someone who you know is a big Percy Jackson fan, or someone you've been trying to convince to get into the Percy Jackson books, saying, hey, there's this podcast that's called The New Olympian. It's really good. You should check it out. Also, you could leave the show a rating and review on whatever podcasting app you're using. Whatever you do to spread the word of the show really does help. I'm appreciative to anyone who has done it in the past, and I'm appreciative to anyone who will do it in the future. But I'm just so thankful that you tuned into this episode, and I hope you tuned into our next episode, where we will be joined by Robert from the Damn Me page to discuss chapters 23 and 24 of The Lost Hero. But until then, I'll see you later. Hey everyone, it's going to me, ASMR Mike. So currently in the studio, I have my Game Boy Color here because we had it on the bookshelf, and Kelly and I almost kept running into it and not getting it off, and that would for sure wake the baby. So I'm just going to see. I have no idea if the batteries still work. Let's try putting the volume up and turning on the Game Boy Color and see if we get the classic like bling noise. Perfect, no notes. Thank you so much for listening.